Hello and welcome to this new edition of Global Voices. I'm your host Laurent, the co-founder of Tapush Travel. We are an accessible travel company based in San Francisco, California. Today we are going to South America. Specifically, we are going to Brazil. Now, Brazil is a very large country with a diverse population of more than 210 million people, spread over 26 states in a country almost as big as the US. Brazil presents unique challenges as well as tremendous opportunities for accessible tourism in normal times. But of course, these are not normal times. To explore that, we're going to go to Rio de Janeiro to speak with Emiliano. Originally from Argentina, Emiliano is a founder of Turismo Acessivel. Before the start of the pandemic, this company was well underway to become a leading actor in accessible travel, and not just in Brazil, but also across countries in the region. With incoming and outgoing travel offerings to Argentina, Chile, Peru, Uruguay, and Portugal. As the pandemic started, Emiliano and I were in the midst of discussion about adding destinations in the US for his regional clientele. Now, Turismo Acessivel specializes in creating exciting tours, often combining cultural visits with nature hike and unique outdoors activities. So, without further ado, let's go and meet Emiliano. Emiliano, it is a pleasure to see you again. How are you?
Hi, Laurent. Greetings from Brazil, from Rio de Janeiro. You have a sunny day, but even though it's cloudy, it's a really warm and nice day.
Oh, that sounds great. So it is morning here in California. It's afternoon in your neck of the wood. It is a Friday, the 10th of July. Tell me a little bit, what is going on in Brazil and maybe in South America nowadays? Kind of a general overview of where we are.
Brazil it's a really big country. So we have probably less 220 million people. So to be honest, to say what's happening in Brazil as an whole, it's going to be really hard to describe it. But besides of that, there are some situations that I can describe how it's going on. Here in Rio de Janeiro, we are facing a situation with the last couple of weeks. Things are being open again. So economy starts moving up again. The government of Rio has a plan with different phases, 6 different phases, and when they are opening gradually, and they are always looking at how are they doing with in the hospitals and looking at the control on how many people has COVID and the rate that can be give to another one. So when that's below 1, that means that's okay, and they continue with that phase. If that goes up 1, they start going with the restrictions. So in São Paulo also has been, they are with the same. They're open gradually, and in some other destinations like Foz do Iguaçu, they have opened. The national park was open, the beer park was open, some attractions were open. Unfortunately, they closed. They closed no because they had because of the COVID, but they closed because they didn't have many visitors. And it's been, for them to be open, that means that they have a lot of investment to make the business going. So they decided to close it, and probably I think which starts the holidays here, national holidays, 15 days for school holidays.
I see.
So pretty much that's the situation. What happened here in Brazil? Unfortunately, the national government and the state government and the different government from the cities, they didn't have like a real plan in terms of how to deal with COVID. So the first times there were some people going, some government saying something, and the federal government saying on the other way. So there was a little confusion. But I think with a couple of months, things are starting getting together and getting to normal. Unfortunately, we had a lot of deaths. We have probably 60,000 people so far, and it's really sad. I think that that number could be a lot lower if some other decisions were made. But on the other hand, if you see that how many 220 million people, if you see on how population and everything, Brazil is not the worst country on death on that side. So
Sure. Let me pick up on a couple of things you said. It's very interesting. So Brazil being such a large country with such a large and diverse population, if I understood correctly, the reopening of the country to tourism, to travel, is done state by state, right? Each state within Brazil has defined how to reopen for business and for tourism.
yes, each state and also each city. For example, here from Rio, we have Bucios, which is a beach destination. It's 3 hours from Rio. It's really nice. It's not very accessible. Unfortunately, it's zero accessible. I don't work with accessible to Bucios because it's not worth it. But it's a really big destination. They are still closed. They only allow people get in if you have a house there or if you live there. Otherwise, you're not allowed to get in. Some other cities, they are open. So it depends on each city. Sometimes what each city is doing, or sometimes which the state is doing. If it was for the federal government, everything will be open as normal as we have pre-March. But it's doing every.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's that every city is deciding and see how is it going on that side.
I see, but what I wanted to kind of clarify for myself and for people watching us, Brazil right now. I mean, I know I couldn't fly to Brazil even if I wanted to, and I know that right now as we speak there are still travel bans for Brazilians flying to Europe or to the US. So I'm kind of want to understand what is going in within the country or maybe within the region for the Brazilian travelers. Can you freely travel from state to state? Are there any travel restrictions within Brazil from different parts of Brazil? Can somebody from Rio travel to Sao Paulo and enjoy the sights and whatever there is to do there?
No. Flights, besides those particular examples that I said, like Bucios, but in general, major cities are open. The flights there have never stopped flying. It was not like in Argentina that they stopped flights. Obviously, all the frequencies and the quantity of flights lower a lot. Mm-hmm. But flights was always still going from the last month. So if you want, you can go to, you can fly over to the different cities. There are some touristic destinations that they might be closed. If I want to go and take a plane and fly up to Iguazu, I'm able to fly. There's no problem. But I will find the Iguazu, the national park, closed.
I see.
So.
Oh, that's interesting. So even if some of the main attraction, the Iguazu Fall and the national parks and so forth, are still closed, and maybe looking to reopen some fashion in the future. But you said that within the region, or maybe Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, you can actually fly between those different destinations, almost like a travel bubble between certain countries?
No, unfortunately, the borders here in Brazil, they are still closed. So even though the state says that they're not flying to Brazil, and Europe says that they're not flying to Brazil, even though they want to fly, the borders are still closed. there are some international flights coming, but those international flights coming, they are coming flights that they are bringing some people who live here or diplomats or everything. There are some from Europe or the States or with cargo and whatever. So borders here in Brazil, the government is doing by every month. They were having closed until April for 30 days. When started getting the open on April, said okay, let's go 30 days more, and they were going like that at least last 2 weeks ago. They were going postponing for 15 days. They have postponed again for 15 days. So what what it's showing is that they are probably having a look for reopening. It's different from Argentina. That in Argentina, government say, okay, we are closed until September. No one in. Otherwise, it's from Argentina and everything. Otherwise, no flight till September. Here in Brazil, they do it other way. They're going like 30 every month, or now for every 15 days.
Sure.
We are something that we are not sure what's going to happen when borders open. If they are, for example, borders are open, Argentina or Brazil, they allowed international tourism. Okay, so Argentinian, I have a passenger from Argentina coming to Brazil. They come here to Brazil. He can enjoy, or she can enjoy Brazil for 2 weeks. The beach, caipirinha, have a beautiful day. But we don't know probably when you come back to Argentina if Argentina will ask to be in quarantine, or the other way around. So it's something that unfortunately is not clear. Governments haven't made any statement on that matter. But it's something that it might be something that it might be in Argentina with other Latin American countries.
I see. Very interesting, and that's certainly a difficult situation for some time to come. But for the Brazilian population, do you see that now the Brazilians are going to do a lot more domestic travel within the country, since the opportunities to travel outside are going to be limited for some time? Do you see a trend for that?
Yes, definitely. Even though probably it's too early for people start traveling, but because of that situation, national tourism will be more important because of that. Probably because of, we don't know how are going to be air tickets or restrictions or whatever. So, and also Brazil has a really big outbound tourism. So it's really big in terms of outbound. So some possibility that we are saying that we have to see the cup half full. So probably, okay, we're not gonna be having the inbound, but the outbound for Brazil was bigger than the inbound from Brazil.
Uh-huh.
So in terms of that, probably when times start heating up a little bit more, people will start feeling more confidence in terms of traveling. They will definitely start traveling within the country. And Brazil is a really big country and has a lot of possibilities. So I think also for the national government has a lot of things to do on that matter and promote Brazil for Brazilians.
Exactly. Yes.
Flights, Gol, for example, they will start flying to Argentina in September, flying from Sao Paulo, Rio, flying to Córdoba, flying to Rosario, flying to Buenos Aires. So international travel will start. Airlines, if they are selling and they start planning their flights on that matter, probably because they see that there are gonna be people traveling, but obviously not on the same volume that we used to have before COVID. And I think people will start feeling safe. I mean, for myself, if I could, it's it's a little bit harder because I have a 5-month-old baby. So to get on the plane with a 5-year-old, it's going to be really hard for him to put a mask. Otherwise, I will put a mask and everything, and I will shop into a plane. It's something I don't matter. I have friends that are already traveling by plane with mask and being taking care and everything. So I think people will start losing some fear about getting a plane. Obviously, what we are seeing that people will start, the first choice will be by car, own vehicles, and probably visiting places that they have already been, which they can feel more safe. Or say, no, I know Dona Marta, she cooks really nice and her kitchen is clean, and she will be just for give an example. So probably something also that something on that matter that we see that people will start feeling safer traveling in the same place that they have already been.
Of
Because
course.
that they matter. Even though there's protocols, on the first things I say that there was not very good connection between the federal government and state government. In terms of tourism, there were some protocols that have been made. So that's something that it's quite an example that in terms of tourism, how things were working a little bit better. So the national government has done a protocol. The state of Rio de Janeiro has done protocol. Hotels here in Rio, some hotels have been open. Still, they didn't close. Some other hotels, they really had to close. And they are start reopening again. Some opening last week, some other open next week, some others in September, in August. So perspectives in terms of that, we're looking forward really to, and the industry as it all is looking to start getting things back as to get business, and people people want to travel.
Sure, sure. Let me go back to something that you said earlier, which connects to a number of discussions that I had over the past few weeks with colleagues all over the world, really, about this trend of domestic travel. You know, it's driven partially by the travel bans and difficulties. It's also driven by a sense of safety and confidence of the travelers to have more control of their environment when they travel. So, you know, we see that in the U.S. where domestic travel now is the main thing that people do or are doing now in the summertime. Renting an accessible vehicle as a family and then traveling to destinations that are open and where they know that they can have the social distancing and the safety measure and the cleaning measures in place. And again, you know, Brazil in terms of population and the size of it, and you know, it's such a big country, such a diverse population that almost the size of the U.S. And I'm wondering, you already mentioned that yes, there is a strong trend for domestic travel, but I'm wondering how easy it is or easier it is for your travelers with disabilities to take advantage of that. Is that, for example, easy to rent an accessible vehicle or minivan and go with the family to enjoy some sites in Brazil?
Well, unfortunately, here in Brazil, things in terms of accessibility, we are a little step behind some other countries or some other regions like the States or Canada or Europe. So that's something that it's also it's a concern. What happens? There are some things that probably in the law works like that, but when you go in practice, doesn't work like that. So, for example, hotels, they have by law they have to have at least 5 or 10% of their rooms accessible or adapted rooms. Probably they have it, but if you go and have a look at it, this is not accessible at all, or the hotel is not accessible at all. So if you want to get it to the hotel, okay, there is, let's say there is an elevator that could give you the chance to go up those 5 steps that they have in the lobby, but probably the elevator doesn't, no one knows how to use the elevator, and probably the elevator is not even working at all. So it's gonna be, it's kind of a challenge on that matter. On the other side, there are some that they work really good, which is a decision for nature that they have been working a lot. I'm updating some information on my website about Bonito. We'll have it soon. Other destination, Socorro, also it's an example in terms of accessibility. It's near San Pablo, which the city and some places, some resorts, which is ecoturismo and adventure tourism, adapted adventure tourism. They have been awarded with several international awards in terms of accessibility. And there are some other options. With Facebook cars and destinations, you will need to have some more. It's going to be more difficult to have more independence, but obviously it's not. We are unfortunately we are a little bit further than some other countries in terms of accessibility. But on the other side, we have some good services in some cities that we are working, and passengers can feel
Sure. So let me just say here at this point in the interview, for the people that are listening and watching us, there will be a slide at the end of the interview where we'll put the contact information and the website, so people will have a way eventually to get information about those sites that you mentioned. I think it's important. It's important also for us, travel professional, accessible travel professional. It's important for us to give a real sense to our audience, to our clientele, what is going on. But we have to look at post-COVID-19 era, because eventually we will have a vaccine, eventually we'll have a cure, and eventually people are going to feel that it is safe to travel again. So maybe let's touch on that. Let's touch on, hopefully, when we talk again in July of 2021, or hopefully earlier than that. Let's look at its post-COVID-19 era, and let's talk about now. Your company is, you're based in Rio de Janeiro, but I know that your company does a lot of, or did a lot of travel before the pandemic in the region, in Argentina, in Uruguay, in Chile. What do you think are going to be the most attractive destinations post-COVID-19 for our clientele, for the accessible travelers? And putting that in the context of the overall accessible travel industry, but also things that may change because of the COVID-19. I think the social distancing, the cleaning, the sanitization measures in hotels, less group travel, more smaller group or family travel. I think this is going to be with us for a long time. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm looking at the US and it seems to be the trend. But maybe you can talk about post-COVID-19 and your preferred markets, your preferred destinations for accessible travel.
Well, I agree 100% what you say. We are going to have a new, there's going to be pre and post COVID in terms of tourism, national tourism and international tourism. People are getting more aware about cleanliness. So the other day I was talking with some doctor about planes and everything, and say, no, well, when we go into a plane, it's not that something that, okay, now when we go to a plane, we will be more clean on every disease. Or if you're going to a buffet restaurant, or if you near to one people and everything, I think something COVID has learned us to be, all of us as a society, a little more cleanness and more awareness on what are the things that could harm us. So in terms of public, I think we're going to be facing something that we haven't faced before. All destinations will go try to attract different markets altogether at all. So I think on that side, passengers will have we have a lot of more choices probably.
Yeah.
Because people will say, okay, no, countries say, no, I'm going to be interested in this market and we're going to face it, and probably they will be more aggressive on that matter. I think that some of these situations are not having flight and everything. Sometimes I see the news and everything we are seeing in some other like situations like post wars. Because not having flights, not having connections with other destinations, and what you see with sometimes the situations are getting a little bit how to say, complaints,
Sure.
more complicated. Well, on that matter, I think people will start looking at their holidays with a more thinking more, okay, I'm gonna be traveling. I'm gonna be really looking what I want to do into travel, and taking more care on how they feel and what they want to feel, and see what are all the options that we have. In terms of international tourism, I think will be where are the flights going in and going out. That's something that unfortunately I would love to take some passengers to the States or to Morocco or to Thailand. I can show how we saw some Thailand, or coming from Thai people come to Brazil, or but if I don't have connections, or probably not asking Thailand, but for example asking some other countries in Latin America, if we don't have our connections, also it's going to be a little more harder on that. So I think it's something that we have to see. How are the passengers coming, which are the demand going, and something that's going to have to be working on the demand.
Sure.
Let's try to work the demand, from demand try to see where are they going. I think that some destinations will keep in top of mind of Brazilians as the state. The States, it's always a top destination, top of mind for Brazilians. Argentina also is top of mind for Brazilians. And in terms of inbound for Brazil, I think it's going to be probably not as big with the past before, but I think markets will be pretty much will maintain the same. Probably there are some destinations that may come back stronger than other ones, but I don't think that it's going to be now that post-COVID, or Brazilians would like to visit Guatemala or would like to visit some destination that they didn't visit before. In terms of accessible travel, passengers, they don't have the much chance to visit what they really want, in terms of what are the accessible facilities in the state.
Sure, I see. Well, Emiliano, we're coming up on a half hour that I promised not to go too much over. And any last words for people that are watching us about your business, accessible travel, your region? Any words of wisdom to the world about where we are and looking forward after the COVID-19?
Well, wisdom will be too big for. I mean, just a couple of words. Brazil is an amazing country. It's a country. I'm from Argentina. It's a country that I've been living here for 5 years. They really opens the receive all passengers with a smile. It's really warm. Once these COVID situations and starts getting back to what we thought was normal before, things will get here in Brazil. We're expecting for you to have a really nice experiences on what Brazilians and what this big country has to offer, which is a lot.
That sounds great, and that sounds, more than hopeful. It sounds very. It puts a smile on my face. I can't wait to be able to travel again and come and visit you in Rio. And I think because I mentioned in the past, my family's from Argentina originally. My grandmother was born in Mendoza, and I just love the wine of Mendoza. So I can't wait to travel again. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to reconnect with you as the situation evolves. I certainly would like to reconnect with you once we know and we have an expectation of the travel ban lifted, because I would love to have another conversation about what actually is going to happen once the travel ban is lifted and people starting to look at traveling to Brazil and outside of Brazil. There will be many opportunities for us to reconnect and talk about specifics. So thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm looking forward to see you again online or in person very soon. Thank you, Emiliano.